What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be getting into Week 2 NFL Power Rankings. The first week just finished up. It was a crazy week. I was meaning to get this video out yesterday, but just was a crazy day. I just came back from Seattle, actually, from the Monday night game versus the Broncos, where the Seahawks won. So that was a fun game, but yeah, it was a crazy weekend. So wasn't able to get that out, but here I am back for this Power Rankings. Let's get into it now. Crazy week. Let's start out with the trash tier. The two worst teams in football, in my opinion, staying as it is. I'm going to throw them out there. The Atlanta Falcons and the Texans at 32 and 31, both staying at their same spots. Let's start out with the Falcons, 27-26. I kind of was expecting Atlanta. You know, it's a division rivalry game. They're at home to compete a little bit in that game against New Orleans. Those rivalries are always a little bit interesting between those two. And the Saints, they did their job. The Falcons, they played well until that final quarter where they did not play well at all. So almost got their first win of the year. That probably would have brought them up over Houston. But, I still think the Falcons are the worst team in football, and that's not going to change from this week. Number 31, the Houston Texans staying as well. Houston, obviously, with that tie against the Colts. Also had a lead, but just couldn't hold on to it till the end there, and nearly lost. But Blankenship missed that field goal, so the Texans are fine. Like I said, this Texas team definitely doesn't have the talent to be one of the better teams in the league, but they should be a scrappy team against a division rival at home, very similar to the Falcons. With that Colts game, I actually predicted the Texans to win against the Colts in my predictions. So take it as you will, but the Texans tied it, nearly got the win, but just couldn't quite do it. So that's the Texans right there, and that's the trash tier down the books. Let's move on to this bad tier, starting with number 30, the New York Jets. Going to drop down 2 spots. This offense looked atrocious this week. Without Zach Wilson, I just don't know how this team's going to get going. Defense still has some things to work out, but, it was not that bad. They held the Ravens to 24 points, so that's not the concern. They need Zach Wilson back because Joe Flacco's clearly not the option there. Or else I don't think New York's going to go anywhere this season. They very much have a difficult schedule to start out this year. Ravens, not a tough team. So I'm not going to overreact and put them in the trash tier quite yet, but they're right there at 30. Number 29, we're going to have the Chicago Bears surprising the heck out of me by beating the San Francisco 49ers. I know it was Trey Lance's first game, but I still trusted Kyle Shanahan and that Niners team to do good enough to beat the Bears. It was a rainy game. Maybe that's what caught Trey Lance off guard, but he did not look well in that game. The defense, for the Bears, very good defensive effort from them. And Justin Fields, did his job. He was able to lead his team at home and get a first win of the year. And what else can you say about that from the Bears? So congratulations to them for getting a win. Our first one-win team, undefeated team, if you will, to go off the board there. Number 28, another team that's going to be jumping up a spot from last week. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence didn't look too good in this game against the Commanders. The Jaguars lost 28-22. Just not a very good game from that Jaguars defense, and Trevor Lawrence was able to keep them in it for a little bit, he played not great for them. But the Jaguars, they were able to stay competitive in that game and have a shot at the end, but just Commanders were the better team at home. So that's why they lost that one. So Jaguars, obviously, just jumping up mainly due to the Jets dropping down. But yeah, that's the Jaguars. Number 27, we're going to have the New York Giants here. Also getting, similar to the Bears, a massive upset over the Tennessee Titans. I was not expecting that one at all. That was probably the game that I was for sure on, that the Titans would win that one. And the Giants completely shocked me. Winning by a game-winning field goal. I just thought that this Titans team, I thought this Titans team was going to be disciplined. Obviously, that's wrong. We'll get to the Titans later, but New York, I'm very, very happy for New York. Brian Daboll, he did his good job fixing this offense, getting it. The offense obviously has concerns, but getting it to do good enough to get the win. Titans were the better team basically all game until the very end, and the New York Giants were able to sneak away with a win. That is how, if you're an underdog, you're going to have to win a lot of games. And New York did it. So impressed with them. If we see another good week from that, I might move them up into the decent tier. But obviously it's week 1, so you don't want to overreact too much. But yeah, the Giants, they are dropping down a spot from last week just because of one team. But don't let that fool you. The Giants did a decent job. So moving on to the decent tier, the Washington Commanders. At number 26, this is the team that's flip-flopping with the Giants. Beat the Jaguars 28-22 this week. I just think I had the Commanders a little bit too low. They've been competitive quite a bit for the past few years. Carson Wentz a good player. I just think that they're the better team of the Giants. So I think I had them a little bit too low in my initial power rankings to be 1-0. This Carson Wentz did his job. Very weird game. Obviously, that's what you're going to expect from Carson Wentz, scoring 4 touchdowns, throwing 2 interceptions. Just a weird game from him, but it was enough for them to get the win. So that's really what the Commanders are banking on. We'll see if it can pay off for the rest of the year. Not a tough foe to win, to beat. So the Commanders sitting there at number 26. Number 25, we got the Detroit Lions. The Lions at 0-1 came off a scrappy loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles were just the better team in that one. But yeah, I'm impressed with the Lions. They were able to, stay intact, able to keep the game close until the very end, and just have at least a chance. And that's what you're going to have to do with some of these underdog games. And the Lions tried it. By the way, they were staying at the same spot from last week. Don't know if I mentioned that. But, Detroit, not a big loss for them at all. They're 0-1, just coming off a good – I would say it's more of a win for them. They're staying at the same spot, but still it's a win, a tight game. And against a very solid Eagles team. So that's the Lions. Let's move on to the number 24 team, which is the Dallas Cowboys. And, the Dallas Cowboys losing Dak Prescott, definitely going to be the farthest drop of any team in this rankings. Dropping 14, they were ranked number 10 originally. Dallas, I do think that this team, they still can have a solid run game. I think that defense played pretty well for them. So I think that's going to be enough for them to be at least competitive without Dak for a while. But losing Dak, man, even with Dak, it did not look good at all for them against the Buccaneers. Obviously, if he didn't get injured, I probably wouldn't have overreacted too much to that loss. But yeah, the Cowboys losing Dak Prescott, that's something you're going to have to overreact to because Cooper Rush isn't going to do it for you. I still think this team can be decent enough, probably sneak in a few games. We'll see. The main concern here without Dak is undisciplined with McCarthy. Like, too many flags in this game. They need to be more disciplined. Mike McCarthy has got to get that going for them, or else, if you don't have a good quarterback, you have to be disciplined. And it's just not going to work out for them if they can't get that going. So that's a big step. But yeah, Dallas, not a good loss at all to the Buccaneers. Only scored a field goal, 19-3. Defense, like I said, it still looked good. That's a high for them. But the offense is not looking good at all. So that's where I have Dallas. Number 23, moving on, a team that barely lost this week, the Carolina Panthers with Baker Mayfield. Starting out that game a little bit rusty for Mayfield, but kind of was expected. Just lost by 2 points to a game-winning field goal by the Browns. And I mean, Baker Mayfield, I'm not going to overreact on the Carolina Panthers at all. Mayfield is going to do his thing. This team is just dropping down one spot from that loss. But I mean, the Panthers, competitive enough. The Browns are a good football team, so you got to give them props. You got to give them some props in that game for competing. But just a tough loss for Carolina. Moving on to number 22. We have the Tennessee Titans, which a very disappointing loss to the New York Giants there. Man, oh man. I don't know what to say for Tennessee. That was a game that I was expecting them to steamroll the Giants, and they barely won it. So the Titans, very well-coached team, but this team lacks talent. And if you can't win the games against these bad teams, especially with you guys being at home, you're not going to be able to make the playoffs. This Titans team, I don't think is a sleeper underdog team. I think they're one of those teams that maybe could sneak out in their division. But yeah, it's not looking good at all for Tennessee after losing a game. Obviously, you don't want to overreact too much. This team's still probably going to be competitive enough at number 22, but losing to the Giants is not a good look for them, in my opinion. Moving on to number 21, the Seattle Seahawks winning the Broncos on Monday night. A lot of people counted them out in that game. I actually predicted Seattle would pull off that upset in that game, even though I am very high on the Denver Broncos. We'll talk about the Broncos later, but Seattle also am a team that I'm high on. I think that Geno Smith looked pretty darn good for the Seahawks, much better than a lot of people were anticipating. Obviously, that quote from Geno, they wrote me off, but I ain't right back. Perfect quote from Geno Smith. You love to see it. And that defense, obviously Broncos shot themselves in the foot, but they were able to bend, don't break, get the stop. Kind of what Pete Carroll wanted to do. I know poor clock management for Denver, but it was a very fun game for me to see in person for Seattle to get that win. So I'm happy there. And a 1-0 start for the Seahawks. And that was a good game to finish off week one with a crazy week. So Seattle moves on up 2 spots there with an impressive win with that defense. So moving on, we got the number 20 team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers getting a win. They are staying at the same spot just from a few other teams surpassing them. And with TJ Watt getting injured, that is going to be a big injury for the Steelers. Hopefully he's back soon. I believe Najee Harris should be back for this next game. I have him in fantasy, so I need him, but barely sneaking out the win over Cincinnati. It was a crazy atmosphere type game for the Steelers, but able to get the win and stay at that same spot at number 20. So good win. That's just what you're going to kind of expect from Mike Tomlin every year. A scrappy team that's able to, play solid football when they need it most. So congratulations on that win to the Steelers. Moving on to number Moving on to number 18, we have the Cleveland Browns. The 19. I just spoiled 18, but 19, we'll get to Cleveland in a minute. 19 is the Minnesota Vikings, the first in the hunt team off the board. We're not done with the decent tier yet. I just have one more for you guys. But Minnesota impressed me, jumping up 5. I did pick them to win Green Bay, but not by that much. Justin Jefferson looked very good. That offense I underestimated, but that defense I especially underestimated. Against Green Bay, they were able to hold the Packers to 7 points. That was impressive. Their pass rush got home to Rodgers today, and that's impressive for Minnesota. This is one of those teams that I can admit that I was wrong on in the first weeks. Obviously, I don't want to fully abandon that take that I didn't think the Vikings were going to be too good this year and jump them up too much. I did predict them to win that game anyway, even with what I thought about Minnesota. But Minnesota at 1-0, it's rightfully so that we should have at least one other playoff contender. Obviously, not saying that these teams down here or even the Giants or the Bears can make the playoffs, but I just think that the in the hunt tiers just have a much better chance, and I like their odds a lot more. So that's where I have Minnesota jumping up 5 spots. Congratulations on the win on Green Bay. Let's move on to the number 18 team. We're going to have the Cleveland Browns. And I kind of spoiled it there, but they're going to be jumping up 3 spots after getting barely a win over the Panthers. Jumping up 3 spots. I just had them a little bit low, I guess. It wasn't that impressive a win over the Panthers, but just enough to get them over the hump, over some of these teams like the Steelers, who lost T.J. Watt, the Titans, and obviously, some of those teams that just had rough weeks for them. Just a little bit enough. But yeah, Cleveland with Jacoby Brissett was able to get the job done over Carolina, and we'll see what happens for the rest of the year for Cleveland with next few 10 weeks or something till Watson comes back. Actually, in my predictions, I predicted this team to actually make the playoffs at 10-7. Watson, I think that Brissett's going to do enough, but that's another time. We'll see what happens in real life. I wasn't predicting them to win that game. So number 17, we have our first playoff team already off the board. Actually, I'm just going to throw up these next 2. The Arizona Cardinals at number 17, staying at the same spot. And then the New Orleans Saints at 16, jumping up a couple spots. Let's start out with Arizona. Arizona just got absolutely pummeled in that game over the Chiefs. Kind of expected for me. This defense is atrocious. It's just a horrible defense. Kyler Murray's not going to be able to keep you in a bunch of shootouts, especially with that DeAndre Hopkins. So it's going to be an interesting situation for Arizona. Not dropping down because of some of these other teams dropping down, like just mainly the Cowboys. I'm not going to overreact too much to the Cardinals. They were about what I would expect in that game against the Chiefs. That Chiefs defense just overthumped the Cardinals defense, and that's just it is what it is. Arizona concerns there. But I do think that they're still going to be good enough to make the playoffs. And then number 16, jumping up a couple spots, the New Orleans Saints. These 2 teams very tight. But New Orleans was barely able to beat the Falcons, and that win is going to give them enough to take the spot. Just had to come back in that one to win the game. Jameis Winston looked pretty good in that one. And it was just enough to keep the Saints from drop it. And then now they're actually in the playoff tier. Thank you to the Cowboys for dropping out. So I think the Saints are going to make the playoffs. Well, the 6th best team in the league and in this playoff tier. So congratulations to the Saints. Let's get back down to the other teams, the other in the hunt teams. Let's start out with number 15, New England Patriots jumping up a spot, actually. The only reason they're jumping up a spot is because of the Cowboys dropping all the way down. New England, they did not look good against Miami, but I kind of was expecting them to lose that game. I predicted it, so I'm not going to overreact too much. But that offense did not look great at all. Miami was able to do their job and get that win. So New England, I'm never going to count on a Bill Belichick-led team to do too bad. So I'm going to give the Patriots the benefit of the doubt and keep them in the hunt here at 15. And then number 14, the team that beat the Patriots, jumping up a spot as well, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins coming off, obviously, that win over New England 20-7. They look good. Their defense looked good against New England. New England wasn't able to get really anything going. That offense with Tyreek Hill, bringing him in Tua Tagovailoa, he played fine in that game. But yeah, Miami, that was not a good game from New England at all. And Miami took care of business to get that win. And move on to number 14, just barely missing out on the playoffs in my eyes. So we have one more playoff team. Not going to come for a while. In the hunt team. Let's get into this playoff tier team. Starting out with the number 13 team, the Colts. The other tie team here, Indianapolis. With that tie, you don't like to see it if you're the Colts. But Matt Ryan was able to lead their team to come back. This would be one to know if Blankenship could just make a field goal. But Indianapolis just comes up a little bit short of getting the win. And it's not going to hurt them at all. I predicted the Texans to win anyway, so definitely not going to hurt the Colts. So number 13 for them. Matt Ryan, did a decent job, especially in that fourth quarter. Number 12, we got the Philadelphia Eagles going to be jumping up a couple spots with that win this week that they got. The Philadelphia Eagles beating the Lions 38-35. A lot of teams, the Cowboys dropping down, the Colts not looking too great is really the main reason for this. Eagles, their defensive line didn't look great, but their offense looked really good. Their play calling, setting up A.J. Brown for some good things. Jalen Hurts did his thing. And the Eagles are going to be a good enough team to be number 12. So congratulations to Philadelphia right there at 12. And then number 11, the San Francisco 49ers, one of the teams that, not a very good loss to the Chicago Bears, but actually jumping up just because of the Cowboys dropping down. But San Francisco, a lot of people were higher than this. A lot of people were higher on the Niners than I was entering into the year. That Trey Lance problem proved to be a problem, but I think that Kyle Shanahan's going to be able to get that under control. We've seen it in the past, last year, where they start out slow and they come back. So San Francisco, I do believe, can still be better and come back. So that is the Niners right there. We'll see what happens next week. If they don't look good next week, this might be time to start moving them down with a lot of these teams. And then number 10, we got the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens sitting at 1-0. The other in the hunt team, I am not quite putting them into the playoff tier. It's very, very close, though. It's very close. I just can't do it quite yet. They just beat the Jets, which is not they won, but it's just a win against the Jets, so it's not anything that I think is going to push them over the top. I just think the Ravens getting some wins against getting some of their running backs back is going to be big for them. They don't have those back right now. So I think a lot of people are jumping a little bit too much on the Ravens hype train a bit more. I still think this team is going to probably make the playoffs when it's all said and done. But I don't think this team is one of the 7 best teams in the league this year. And I think the Ravens are number 10. The only reason they're jumping up is because obviously they got the win, but the Cowboys dropping down, they probably would have jumped up if Cowboys don't drop down. But yeah, the Ravens at number 10. Let's move on to, we're done with the in the hunt teams. 2 more playoff teams, then we can get into the contenders. Let's start out with the number 9 team. We got the Las Vegas Raiders, a playoff team right there at 0-1. And I'm just going to throw out the team that beat them, the 1-0 Chargers. The Raiders, though, are staying at the same spot. It's coming up. Derek Carr did not look great, but it's coming off a loss to the Chargers, who both those teams, the Raiders had a chance to come back and win that game, but just couldn't quite do it. I'm not going to harp on that. We'll see what happens next week to see if they should drop down, but I still think that they're one of the 7 best teams in the AFC. And then the Chargers at number 8 at 1-0 get the win over the Raiders. Good win. I'm just not ready quite yet to put that team in contender. They didn't win by enough for me to do that. And I still need to see Justin Herbert maybe get some of that more, some experience for the playoffs. But there's the Chargers. Let's advance to the contender tier. A lot of contenders in my tier that lost this weekend, actually 4 of the 7. So number 7, we got the Green Bay Packers losing pretty convincingly to the Vikings. It was not a good win. I'm just mainly disappointed in that secondary. I mean, that's supposed to be one of the best secondaries in the league. They got to start mixing up some coverages or something. Man-to-man coverage, you got to be better than that. That's a better second. That's probably the best secondary in the league, and you're letting Justin Jefferson and this Vikings team just light you up. It is just no disrespect to Justin Jefferson. He's a phenomenal player, probably one of the best in the league, but you just still can't let that happen to you. And then, Green Bay, the offense just did not look great at all. Aaron Rodgers couldn't get the ball out. They were under duress. And the receiving core it's not great right now. They need to figure out that problem, and maybe they'll be a little bit up. But number 6, the Cincinnati Bengals, who will be hopping the Green Bay Packers. Just because even with all these mistakes, the Bengals were able to stay in the game over the Steelers. Green Bay just did not stay in that game. The Minnesota Vikings had it from the start. Steelers nearly won it. So jumping up spot, if anything, that's a testament to the Bengals, because I was expecting the Steelers to win that game from the get-go. But Cincinnati was able to prove a lot of people, prove me wrong that they were able to stay in that game. Steelers still able to win it. They had a lot of circumstances where they could have won it, but not too worried about that loss at all from the Bengals. Joe Burrow did not look great to start it out, but we see it a lot from teams that just lost the Super Bowl. And then number 5, the Rams dropping down a spot. The only benefit of the doubt here for the Rams is because they're playing in my opinion, we'll see where the Bills are, but, the Rams they're playing a very good Bills team. And, I just don't think that that's going to be enough for the Rams to drop them down too much after losing by that much. They just didn't. Matthew Stafford didn't look well at all. We'll see another week, though. A lot of these teams that lost, I'm just saying we'll see a week how it goes. But that's where the Rams are right now. Number 4, the Denver Broncos, a team that I am very high on. Losing to the Seattle Seahawks. I actually predicted that game to go Seattle's way. It was just a weird game for Denver. Russell Wilson returning. It was just poor. They had very many opportunities to win that game for Denver. Just poor management at the end. I don't know why they were kicking that field goal there. It just was not smart. Obviously did not score at the 1-yard line twice. It's just disappointing loss for Denver Broncos, that's for sure. But it's week 1. I still believe in Russell Wilson and what he brings to the table for Denver. You just got to give it to him a bit more than what they did. Let Wilson. Sorry, guys, it cut off a bit there, but yeah, like I was saying, I just think that they got to give it to a little bit more to Russ. I think he's got to supposedly let Russ cook, but just let him lead that offense. You're paying him a lot of money. You got to, 4th down and 5, you got to let him be the one that you're going to lose the game on. So, not the kicker. So that's my stance on the Broncos right there, dropping down a couple spots. But let's move on to the number 3 team, the Kansas City Chiefs. Getting into this top 3 here. Kansas City at 1-0. I mean, the Chiefs going to be jumping up 2 spots here. The Chiefs are an interesting team. Probably a lot of people think that they should be number 2. Just dominating the Bills. Very, very good win against the Bills. I mean, not the Bills, the Cardinals. I don't know why I'm saying Bills. Sorry about that. But yeah, the Chiefs just dominating the Cardinals. Their defense, improving their defense, I think was worthwhile. Held the Chargers to only, the Cardinals to only 21 points. And with Kyler Murray, that offense, even without Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes still is able to bring that team to 44 points in that game. Very impressive win for the Kansas City Chiefs. Just a lot of people think that they should be number 2, which I'm going to put up my number 2 team, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 2. And the reason I have the Buccaneers at 1-0 and 2 is because Tom Brady, this offense, it's going to get the job done usually. This Chiefs team, I feel like, is a team that this Buccaneers team, I think, is a team that this offense is going to be good enough. And that defense, man, that defense looked relentless against the Cowboys. When Dak Prescott was in, he couldn't get anything going. Nothing was going for the Cowboys except for on that opening drive where they kicked the field goal. So if you're the Bucs, you gotta be impressed with the way they're starting out this season, especially on that defensive end. And Tom Brady, he's gonna be Tom Brady. No matter what, if you have a good defense for Tom Brady, he's gonna bring you to have a very good team. So I just like the defensive aspect over the Chiefs a little bit more. That's why they're higher. But I do think that the clear number 1 team in football is the Buffalo Bills. With Josh Allen, this team just completely obliterated the Rams, the defending Super Bowl champs. That is not a tough task to do on a primetime game. What a game for Buffalo. I mean, they looked pretty darn fired up in that game. And if you're a Bills fan, you got to be happy with the way things are going. So anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this video today. Hopefully you all enjoyed the power rankings. Comment down below your rankings below. And anyway, peace out.